There we go. What's up, everybody? It's Hunter Homistek from Flow Combat here with two of the hottest up-and-coming prospects in the MMA media game from Ramen Chokehold. If you guys haven't been over to Ramen Chokehold yet, highly recommend it. They've got the global coverage like pretty much no other site's doing right now, so enjoy that. We got Wombat Jones. Wombat, what's up, dude? How's Malaysia today? You're in Malaysia, right?
I am, brother, and it's fiery about, I don't know, it's about 1,000 degrees here. I'm sweating up an absolute storm. Mate, thanks for the intro. You're full of shit, but we love you.
Hey, man, I do what I can. It's all perception, all smoke and mirrors, right? Hey, and 1,000 degrees sounds awesome because it's cold as shit here, which, perfect segue, my dude Jeff, the other guy here on the Hangout, the other Ramen Chokehold maestro, can attest to. How's Pittsburgh doing, Jeff? How you feeling today, man?
It's pretty good. We got some sun over here yesterday. It's a bit cloudy now, but that'll clear up. Love it here, man.
Love it. Well, today we've got a pretty good show for y'all today. Got a good rundown. Wombat was actually at the latest One Championship event, covering that thing from all angles. Dude was cage side. Dude was interviewing everybody behind the scenes. Got Angela Lee behind the scenes, which you all know that's a pretty big deal to get her. So Wombat, let's kick it off with some One Championship goodness, man. What went down? What should fans look for if they missed the event? Where should they start catching up?
Mate, it was an absolutely fantastic event. And I've got to say, without being biased, because, I was cage side and all that sort of thing, but, man, if you've never seen One Championship, you're really doing yourself a disservice if you're an MMA fan, because in my opinion, they definitely have the best undercards in the game. It mightn't be the highest level talent, but I tell you what they do. They match them up perfectly, so you get absolute fire from the start. And mate, last week, it's been an absolute pleasure here in Malaysia. The city's absolutely beautiful. It's a little bit steamy, like I said, but mate, getting straight into it, 8-time world BJJ champion, Michelle Nicolini, she went to work and boy, did she put away her opponent very, very quickly. Opponent went in, threw a nice looping overhand. She just ducked under, took her down, smashed her up a little bit, and eventually put her to sleep. There was no tap, which I always like to see from fighters. So she went to work. Luis Santos, he improved his record to about 487-4. It's another great performance by him. Danny Kingad coming off his world championship loss to Andre Moraes. He got another win under the board. It was a close decision, however. It was pretty close. And then we moved on to Christian Lee. Now, I spoke to Christian Lee during the week. If you haven't seen that, you can check it on Ramen Chokehold's YouTube page. But Christian Lee, for me, is what the future of MMA is about. I mean, he's 19 years old. He's got together an amazing win streak. The only blemish on his record, I believe he's 9-1 now, is to said Martin Nguyen, who next week obviously goes for his triple world title. But it was actually a very interesting affair where he was fighting Yokota, who's one of Japanese MMA's OGs. And basically for about the first 4 minutes, it was quite competitive. Yokota come out there swinging and landed a few times. But eventually Christian caught him with basically a minute left in the first round. And from there, it was all downhill for Yokota. So he put him away. And when I was talking to him in the interview during the week, I basically asked him, what's next for you? If you win this, are you after that title shot? And he said, yeah, he believes that win will now either give him an interim title, obviously, because Martin's too busy taking out every single world championship there is. But he does believe that's where, and I actually think that's exactly what's next for him. I mean, he's basically cleaned out the whole division. So that's going to be interesting to see what One Championship do with him. The local boy, Aglan Tani, the alligator, absolutely swallowed up Amitesh Chalby. Chalby was a little bit of a gamer too. He come out there being a little bit of a showman, putting on a little bit of a showboat performance, which didn't really fare too well with him in the end because Tani absolutely smashed him in mount in the first round and eventually put him over the Kimura in the second round. But that led all to the moment and the reason why I'm over here, and that's because recent Lightning McLaren, he was taking on Gianni Suba in the main event and an absolutely great performance by Reese, solidifying his #1 position for the next in line for the title. And Jeff, you know Reese a little bit. You've written, about him somewhat. Did you catch the fight, and what did you think about that finish, man?
Yeah, it was. I caught the fight. It was a great fight, just straight off the bat, because Gianni Suba offered something a little different. I think the one thing that Reese will probably always have to work on is a stand-up. I'd like them to be a bit more, flowy with this footwork. He's a bit heavy on the lead leg, so Suba was able to capitalize on that, landed some good calf kicks. But the thing about Reese is once he gets you to the ground, it's all over. There is absolutely nothing you can do. And it's really, he took him down twice in the entire fight. And both times he went straight to mount. In round 1, straight to mount, was looking for, I believe he was looking for a head and arms straight from that. And he, kept on top, stayed low. Same thing in the second round. Took him down, straight to mount, trapped his arm, past the guard, and it was all over 20 seconds later. So Reese McLaren is a serious problem. And now you have to think, is Adriana next? Is JJ next? That's kind of, that's the difficult part about this, because even though he deserves to fight for the undisputed title next, because Adriano's injured with a knee, and we all know that those kind of things take some time to rehab, is he going to have to fight for the interim title? I think he might have to, but regardless, I would pick him over JJ. Him and Adriana will meet soon. It's just a matter of when.
And Hunter, man, you're over there and you're always busy looking at all the Flow Combat cards and that. Did you happen to catch the fight, and did you see Reese? And what do you think about him, man?
Man, Reese is super intriguing to me. Kind of just to echo what Jeff said, his ground game immediately stands out. Like, if you didn't have any background on Reese, if you didn't know his accolades and you just watched the fight, you'd be like, this dude's a problem on the ground. Because like he said, both times it hit the ground, immediately to mount, immediately threatening with submissions. It was crazy. Actually, when he locked up the submission, that was probably the fastest arm triangle I've ever seen in my life. Like, it hit the ground, he transitioned him out, got the arm triangle, put him out. I mean, it was like, it was easy for him, man. And just two things I wanted to touch on that card too, just to kind of tie it into the mainstream audience. You mentioned Michelle Nicolini. I wanted to ask you, because I actually didn't get to see that fight. People are going to be comparing her to Mackenzie Dern. They were rivals throughout the whole BJJ scene. So how do you think her MMA game compares to Mackenzie's right now? Do you feel like she has that kind of a ceiling that Mackenzie has seen?
Well, unfortunately, the fight really didn't last that long, and it lasted for about 3 seconds on the feet. Literally 3 seconds on the feet. The bell rang, they come out, she swung an overhand right and took it straight down to the ground. So it's a little bit hard for me to tell at the moment, but what I will say is this, is for her to come from such a BJJ pedigree, what I was really, really keen on seeing was that not only did she look for a submission, whatever, but she smashed her up first. And I think normally when you see people come straight over from BJJ, that doesn't happen too much. They worry about their position. They try and put them away with a submission. But she really did land some elbows and some big bombs on her. So I do think she's got a massive future. It's going to be hard to tell as well, just because of the fact that she's in one championship. And the talent in that promotion with the women, just like in just about every other promotion at the moment, it's going to be hard until they really get to the top and they start meeting those top-level opponents. But, man, she does have a future, in my opinion, and I can't wait to actually see how she goes. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to watch her develop as well. And the second fighter I just wanted to expand on a little bit, Aguilan Tani, because a lot of people, when he fought Askren, were saying, hey, this guy's a can, it's just another can. They're feeding Askren. I think in that fight, you got to see that Tani is legit. He has legit skills. He's a good fighter. But what the point I want to make here, that just ties it into Ben Askren, man. How good is Ben Askren? Because everybody's saying these guys are cans, but the reality is they're decent. It's just when they fight Askren, they look like cans. That's really what's happening here. So I think this whole Askren fighting GSP narrative that's going on now, I think Tani's win gives that a little more merit. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree, man. And because I was up there, and yet again, he wasn't facing probably the best opponent, but he totally outclassed this guy. You know, he threw him around, he elbowed the crap out of his fucking face for like a good minute. Like it was actually a little bit horrifying to watch that, because man, those elbows were coming from up here, and he's a big boy at welterweight. I definitely tell you that. But the one thing that I want to say as well is between Aguilar and Reese, those two guys are two of the most respectful guys that I've ever met in MMA. It's actually insane how quiet and respectful those two fellas are. So it's really good to see those guys, you know, get the push, even though they're not yappy. And I'm getting a little bit sick and tired of all that yap shit as well. So I know Jeff loves it, but mate, it was a fantastic card. We're going to touch on next week's card a little bit because I go straight from here over to Thailand in Bangkok. But mate, what I really want to know about now is you had a card over on Flow Combat Warfare 18, and it was big championship. It was Ben Rowland versus Austin Lane, and Austin was an ex-NFL guy coming into that. And mate, why don't you tell me about that card?
Man, that card was so fun. That it unfortunately kind of fell apart at the last second. You know, there were supposed to be 3 title fights, and there ended up just being 1. Some things got shuffled around, but all credit to Andy Hall, man. He's the promoter for Warfare. He picked up the pieces on short notice and made it work, man. We had grappling fights. We had a pancration rules fight, and it was just a total slap fest, a grapple fest, dude. It was so fun. The announcers were going crazy. A lot of guys on social media were going crazy. Like, I can't believe I'm watching, you know, pancration on Flow Combat. So we had grappling, pancration, and MMA all on the same card, which just made it a really fun event to watch. You know, the pacing was great because of that. But I'll admit, I'd only ever seen clips of pancration. You know, I've watched YouTube, some old Boss Root and Frank Shamrock clips and whatnot. And I thought it was fun, but I never watched a match start to finish, you know, diligently. And that was the first time I really saw it. I'll watch it again. I'll put it that way. It was good enough to where, you know, I'll seek it out next time that it's available. It was super fun. But Austin Lane and Ben Rowland, man, it all built towards that. And these are 2 undefeated knockout machines. You know, both guys, one was 3-0, one was 4-0, all wins by knockout. You had the feeling somebody was getting knocked out. And unfortunately, Lane came out charging, busted Rowland up immediately, opened up a massive cut, actually sprayed blood all over the commentators.
I was actually going to mention that, and that has happened to me once before as well, which is a little bit gross, but yeah.
The one commentator, shout out Brandon Bouchard, I hope you got your tetanus shot or whatever kind of shot you need after that, because apparently Rowland's blood flew into his mouth. That's the grossest shit ever, man. But yeah, so Lane busted him up, cut him, and unfortunately the doctor had to step in round 1 because the cut was just too bad and stopped the fight. But Lane showed exactly what you expect from an ex-NFL guy, the athleticism, the way he moves, you know. And this might be a weird comparison because he didn't quite pan out to the degree that I personally thought he would. A lot of people thought he did. But Travis Brown, I think the first couple times we saw Travis Brown in the UFC, just a dude that big, moving like that, throwing those kind of strikes was really unique at the time. And that's kind of Austin Lane. He's not doing the flashy spinning kicks or anything, but just the way he moves and his quickness. When you watch regional heavyweights, you know, they just don't move like this guy. So it's going to be really interesting to see how far he goes. And Rowland, to his credit, man, he was getting cracked with uppercuts, overhand. You know, he was getting brutalized, but he never dropped, never went down. He stood in the pocket and threw back his own hammer. So that dude is tough as hell. And his next fight, you know, he's an older guy, but he's still a multi-promotion champion, and he'll have to defend his titles, I assume. So his next fight, still really interesting to me. You know, he's the first guy that didn't get absolutely steamrolled by Lane. So that says something, you know. But Warfare overall, man, like I said, the full event, super fun, super diverse. The full replay's up on Flow Combat if you guys want to catch it. Highly recommend it.
Well, Jeff, you also are a big fan of all these athletes now coming in MMA. Taiwan Claxton's like the one that comes to mind that we've spoken about, where you have spoken about before. These athletes are just going to start really popping up left, right, and center, aren't they, mate?
Yeah, it's awesome. And like Austin Lane's a guy I remember playing. Like I believe he was the defensive end for like Jacksonville or something. He was like a legit guy off the edge, and those of you who know American football, you got to be fast to get around those corners. So to have somebody like that who's already built to withstand like physical punishment from 300-pound plus linemen. And then he goes into a cage and starts fighting dudes who don't have the athletic background that he has and pretty much grew up being a scrapper because they're big and they had to be. It's difficult to get up to that level. You can train skill, but you can't train athleticism. And that's why Travis Brown had so much success, like you were saying. And that's why a guy like Austin Lane's going to continue to have success. And you bring up Tywan Claxton and the Bellator Fab Five and all these guys who come from either, combat backgrounds in other areas or just like other sporting backgrounds. It's going to be tough to beat them. So that's what's so great about North American regional MMA is because every single guy, even if they didn't get to the NFL, a lot of those guys, especially the big dudes, have other avenues that they went down, played basketball, played football, and they grew up in more traditional sports, and now you're putting gloves on them and letting them scrap. Like, this is fucking crazy. You see Austin Lane knocking people out left and right. So I'm super excited for that kind of stuff to start popping up all over the place.
Well, I'm going to intro something now because I didn't catch this fight. I was actually quite busy this week. But all I've seen on my feed is this Nick Newell. Now, I know who Nick Newell is. Obviously, he's an MMA fighter. He's actually only got one. What would you say? Is just one arm or one? He's got half like an arm. Like, he can still grapple, can't he?
It's at I think it's his left arm is just above the elbow. He doesn't have. But he can still, he chokes bitches out all the time, so it's not like he can't.
So tell me about him. I mean, what's going on with him? Everyone's going, get him in the UFC, get him in the UFC, and normally when that happens, it fucking happens. So, boys, hit me with it.
I mean, he's 14-1, and his only loss is Justin Gaethje, and there's absolutely no shame in losing to Justin Gaethje. So that alone kind of tells the story. I mean, we watch enough regional MMA that 14-1 is an accomplishment. I don't care who you're fighting, man. You get into 15 fights and win 14 of them. That's an accomplishment. You're bound to get caught once in a while.
Well, like you said last week, you could be fighting in your neighbor's backyard, and if you're 14-1, you're a fucking good fighter.
Hell yeah, man. We all know that one friend of ours who just gets in fights. If he's 14-1, you're like, don't fuck with that guy. So that's Nick Newell to me, man. He's exciting. Like, that's the other thing. He's not just winning by decisions. He chokes, like Jeff said, he's choking bitches out, man. That's what he does. He's super aggressive and really polished too, and obviously an inspirational story, man. If the UFC marketing team can't run with that, then they can't run with anything. If you can't talk about a guy who's a congenital amputee coming into the UFC and finding success, then just bag it up and quit marketing stuff, because that sells itself. So the UFC's roster is deep enough now that I think the time is right. They can give him a lower end lightweight who maybe is debuting himself, like CM Punk, Mike Jackson situation, and no discredit to Nick Newell, he's a tier above those guys, but they can set something up that is a favorable match where he's not going to get brutalized like he did against Gaethje, and make it happen. At this point, man, honestly, it's a what do you have to lose kind of deal for me on the UFC's end. If, like I said, if you're putting in CM Punk, if you're putting in fights like that, if you're throwing in Sage Northcutt when he's super green, then you can throw in Nick Newell, who's paid his dues on the regional scene year after year, and gone 14-1. Just give him a fight. If he loses, he loses, and I'm sure he would say himself, hey, I got the chance. I thought I was there, but I guess I'm not there. I did it. That's good enough for me. But if he wins, then you've got something bigger on your hands. So do it.
When you go back to like who he's been fighting, and you can look at their records and you look at the fact that they don't really have names, but it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, if you're supposed to demolish somebody and you demolish somebody, that says just as much as if you beat a high-level guy. He did what he's supposed to do against a guy like Sonny Luque. He does what he's supposed to do against all these guys, aside from Justin Gaethje, who we all know Justin Gaethje, so throw that out the window. There are guys who Nick Newell would run through right now in the UFC. The UFC standards, and I don't hate it, like, I think they should open up their roster and develop talent and just, hell, throw some guys out there, see what they got. But they are signing guys who don't really belong in the UFC the way we used to see that promotion. And Nick Newell's better than those guys. He actually deserves to be in there, one hand, two hand, or not. So, yeah, I'm with Hunter. Like, they definitely should sign him. It'll be interesting how far he gets, though, because at the end of the day, he hasn't beaten the level of opponent of top 30 UFC lightweights. He hasn't beaten guys who could legitimately sit in there with the best lightweights in the world and come out victorious or even put up that much of a fight. So that's a legitimate concern. But all these people out here saying, oh, he's got one arm, he can't defend himself, he's going to get smashed. What has he been doing the past? He's got 15 fights. He only got smashed like once. He's been defending himself. I can't figure out the physiology of how he's defending himself. I mean, we all know range plays a whole part of it. I mean, you can have no arms if you're not in punching range. No one's going to hit you. So, there are certain ways that you can prop yourself up based on that, but it really doesn't matter. Throw him in the UFC, see what happens.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to just add one thing. In this last fight, he was actually coming off a 2-year layoff as well, so I feel like you got to consider that. He was a guy who a lot of people thought he was just retired and he wasn't going to come back. He opened his own gym, kind of got his life centered, got everything in order, and then was just getting that itch to fight again. He jumped back in and finished the guy in the first round again. That may not have even been him at his best. That may have been him with a little ring rust at LFA 35. So who knows? He may have developed his skills to a point where he actually can hang with the UFC level again. And I do also want to say we had some guys on the ground at LFA and interviewed him. Really good interview. If you want to check that out on Flow Combat. But he kind of said himself, I don't think he thinks he's a title contender in the UFC. I don't think that he feels like he's going for the belt right away. He just wants that opportunity. He wants his hard work to pay off. He just wants that chance, And that's why I feel like, he's not saying I'm going to go smash Khabib tomorrow. That's not what he's trying to say. And at this point, why not give him one of those bottom end, top 40 guys in the lightweight division? Just see what happens.
What if you were to put him in like a Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series thing? Do you think that would suit him?
No, I don't think so. I think all those guys know that that's different. The crowd's not there, the media days aren't there. I think he wants the full experience. That's just me projecting what I think. I don't know. He may think.
Well, I don't mean what he wants. Do you think do you think already he should be in the UFC, or do you think he deserves to get a shot to be in the UFC?
Right. Absolutely. He definitely at least deserves Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. Absolutely. I mean, LFA, we see guys go from LFA to the UFC all the time, and he showed right there he can hold his own in LFA. So that proves to me, yeah, he's ready for that next step.
So let's move on. That was last week. Let's talk about this week coming up. And we've got a UFC event over in London. So, boys, I know you're hot on this. Let me get your take, Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, UFC London, obviously not the hottest card of the month, right? There are 2 Flow Combat events this weekend as well, so I don't even know how much I'm going to watch this UFC London card live, to be honest. I'll obviously catch the replay. You got to. You got Fabricio Verdum, a former champ, on the card. I'm obviously going to watch him. It's a good matchup too, man. Alexander Volkov and Verdum. Heavyweight division's thin, man. And Jeff's interview that just came out with Tai Tuivasa, said the same thing. The whole division is just boring. That was his quote. And I can't really disagree, can you? It's true. It's stale. Besides the top, Stipe at the top. Where's Kane? Where's any contender? Junior and Rothwell are both suspended. I mean, it's a crappy division, which is a shame because the heavyweight division should be the crown jewel division of any promotion. So you get Volkov, who coming off, I think, 4 or 5 straight wins, maybe he's the fresh blood, man. If he somehow bulldozes Verdum, which I don't see anybody really bulldozing Verdum, I don't see that happening. So, but if he does, that's suddenly a really intriguing fight for Stipe, a different look, a fresh face. That's pretty much at this point, that's the best the UFC can hope for. So that's a fun fight. Otherwise, Duque Noir, I like him coming back. Obviously, he suffered an upset defeat in his last fight, but Cody Stamann is no joke, man. That dude is really good, and I think he's proven that. So to Duque Noir's credit, that was a split decision, so he might still be just as good as everybody thought. So obviously excited to see him back in there. And those are the two that I really got my eye on. I know Duque Noir is not even the co-main event, but I like that fight more than the actual co-main event. So Jeff, you want to run us through the co-main and any other fights that you got your eye on?
Yeah, I'll be honest. This card's going to be tough to watch, especially now for us North Americans. You got college basketball coming for the next – probably the greatest week of gambling in the history of gambling is coming up. So death to all gamblers. I'm lucky I got out when I did, but you have to pull yourself away from all that and plop down for this UFC Fight Pass middle of the day card. It's tough, but there's like 4 things that you want to watch, right? Obviously the main event, Hunter said Tom Duquesnoy. The co-main event's pretty good, Jimmy Manuwa versus Jan Blachowicz. If you don't remember their first fight, go back and watch it. It was a battle. It was a great fight. But like any one of those guys, if they win, what does it really do? I mean, Cormier's going up to heavyweight. Light heavyweight's a tough division right now because even if Cormier loses, does he go back down to light? I don't even know if he can cut that weight again. He already looks terrible when he goes up on the scale. He has to hold towels to make weight at this point. So the champion is in such a tough spot, and now you got Jimmy Manuwa. If he beats Jan, it's like a decent win, but who the hell is Jan Blachowicz at this point in his career? And if Jan beats Jimmy, it's a good win, but who really gives a fuck? The only other fight I really want to talk about is Hakeem Dawodu. Nobody's really talking about it. It's really going under the radar, probably because this card's terrible, but he's like, if you guys are fans of WSOF, really no, I'm telling you what you think. I think this is a shit card. I think you look top to bottom, it's terrible. But Hakeem Dawodu is coming if you're fans of WSOF, formerly WSOF, now PFL. Like, he was knocking dudes out cold. Like, he was running through guys. Super exciting fighter. He's going to bring it, and he's fighting Danny Henry. So if you guys don't remember him, he beat, who is it? Daniel Tamor, David Tamor's brother, who's a legit striker in his own right. He's coming back. Now he's fighting Dawodu. So that's a serious fight too. Other than that, I would say skip the card, watch some basketball. D1 Wrestling's on. If for us combat sports fan, you got the wrestling tournament going on. Check them out.
Well, look, I like any guy who has 2 first names. So Danny Henry is already on my radar. That's just fun. But on the Dawodu front, I want to toss this one to my dude James Lynch. Shout out James Lynch because he's been tooting Dawodu's horn for a long time. That's a Canadian fighter, one of the hottest Canadian prospects running, and he's been atop our Flow Combat rankings for a while. And Lynch has been calling for that guy to make it to the UFC. So for him to finally get that call up, it'll be a real test. We all know you can dominate the regional scene, man, but even the low-end UFC fighters are a different animal. So if he comes out, though, and shows up the way a lot of people think, that's a really exciting addition to the roster. So, yeah, Jeff, that's a great call on Dawodu. I love that fight, and I will definitely be tuning in for him.
Yeah, well, not sure I'm even going to fucking watch it. So, whatever. I am a big fan of Jimmy Manuwa. Fabricio Verdum, I can... whatever. So,
hey, you know what? I'll throw out this one more. Danny Roberts is on the card, and I don't think I've ever seen a Danny Roberts fight that was anything less than just a knockdown, drag out, like 3-round battle. So, I mean, stick around for that, I guess, and then just keep your channels going, keep your remote in hand, and just have a good weekend.
All right, one more. We can shit on this card all we want, but I gotta at least shout out Leon Edwards as well. We just interviewed him. This dude never gets his due respect. I feel like people don't even know he exists. He's won 4 straight, man, and I think he's only lost to Usman, and losing to Kamaru Usman's no shame in that. So this dude might be legit too if he runs through Sabata. keep an eye on him. You know, that's at least some kind of angle, trying to generate some interest here.
Well, and that's a good call too, because I just looked at his record. You forget he beat Tumanov, Vincente Luque, Brian Barberena, so that's a good call too, Leon Edwards.
Now, obviously this week as well, we've got some fights over at Flow Combat. We've got AKA Rite of Passage 3, and let's see if I get this right, but we've got 559 fights 33. Is that right, Hunter? What the fuck is going on with that name?
63.
63.
It's the zip code promotion, like Jeff said. It sounds like a zip code when you say the name. 559 fights is on Saturday, so that's late Saturday night because it's in California, so it's the Western time zone for everybody here in North America. For you, Wombat, I don't fuck with those kind of conversions. I'm not even going to try to tell you. But, it's California amateurs, man, and I'll say, you know, this is a hardcore. You got to be a hardcore MMA fan to get into amateur MMA. I know that, but I will say we've had several 559 fights cards on Flow Combat, and I genuinely look forward to them. You know, I'm not just saying that because it's on Flow Combat. They're fun as shit. And California, you know, our guy Nolan King actually ranked the top 5 regions for MMA prospects, and he had California at number 1. And when he broke it down, it's pretty clearly number 1. Like the wealth of talent in California is insane. So these amateur cards in California actually end up like competing with a lot of pro cards I've seen it in other corners of the U.S. So these guys are actually really polished, really worth watching, keeping your eye on. But the one on Friday, man, AKA Rite of Passage 3, this is the one that like I cannot wait for, because this is actually breaking news. You know, I've been waiting for the right time to announce this on Flow Combat and the right presentation. You know, I was going to record a nice little slick video to announce it. Nick Diaz is going to commentate the main event.
Whoa.
And also be in attendance for meet and greets, and also do a couple of jiu-jitsu seminars down in Louisiana. So Nick Diaz commentating. I don't even know how that's going to go.
Oh, so we're throwing spinning shit now.
Exactly. All I know is that I need it in my life. And that main event actually features Derek Krantz, and that's a former LFA champ, 2-time over LFA champ actually. And he's coming off a really controversial loss in his last title defense. So, you know, if a split decision, I believe. So if one judge sees it the other way, this dude's still the LFA champ, still holding that gold and being looked at by the UFC for sure. He's moving up to 185 for this fight, actually. You know, he said the weight cut, you know, kind of drained him a little bit. And we've seen guys, hey, Robert Whitaker, you guys know as well as anybody, moving up a weight class can sometimes really revitalize your career. So we'll see if he looks even better there. But a former LFA champ, this dude's absolutely legit prospect. So that's the main event. And underneath him in the co-main, you got Brant Moore, who's actually a training partner of Krantz's. And Brant Moore, in the last AKA Rite of Passage card, Rite of Passage 2, fought Spencer Flores. And Spencer Flores was an LFA prospect coming off a win in LFA, and everybody was actually tuning into that fight to see Spencer. And Brant choked him out in the first round. And it was like, yeah, I don't give a fuck about your hype train. I'm choking this guy out to show you that I'm the guy. So now Brant Moore has kind of become the guy to keep an eye on. So Rite of Passage 3, man, that promotion overall has just really impressed me. We've streamed all their cards. They just started recently, but we've streamed AKA Rite of Passage 1 and 2 on Flow Combat. They had Haley Cowan, a big women's MMA prospect. You know, she's looked absolutely phenomenal and actually just won in LFA as well. And they also had Greg Hardy. You know, we're on the theme of ex-NFL fighters, and they had Greg Hardy in the last event. So they always put on good cards, man. The production's great. And it's Friday, so some Friday night face punching. If you don't have Friday night plans, catch Nick Diaz on commentary, man. And I'm just I cannot wait for him to say something ridiculous. You know, I'm just waiting for it.
Mate, tell me, how do we catch up with Flow Combat? Like, if we want to sign up and all that sort of thing, how do we get that done? How much does it cost?
You just go to flowcombat.com. So there are 2 pricing options, actually. You'll see a link to sign up in the top right corner, I believe. Or you can just navigate to our events page, and you'll see banners to watch live and all that good stuff. You know, it's very intuitive. The pricing is $30 a month prescription, or you can do $150 a year. So the yearly breakdown ends up being like $12.50 a month. You know, if you're a hardcore prospect and you know, or hardcore MMA fan, prospect watcher, you know, you're winning that gold, baby. If you're a hardcore MMA fan and you know, like, like I do with Fight Pass. I know I'm going to watch Fight Pass year round. If you know you're going to watch Flow Combat year round, the yearly option makes a lot more sense. But here's the thing that a lot of people that maybe they don't know, and this might be my fault for not making it more well known. When you sign up for Flow Combat, you also get Flow Grappling, Flow Wrestling, Flow everything. So if you want to watch those D1 wrestling prospects, the Pans, the ADCC trials and whatnot on Flow Grappling, Submission Underground, you get all that when you sign up for Flow Combat. So that's actually a recent transition. Before it used to be the yearly subscription. You had to sign up for the yearly to get everything. Now, whether you go yearly or monthly, you get it all. So either way, you're set. And I mean, if you combine our content schedules just between grappling, wrestling, and combat, we're talking multiple events every weekend. It's way more than you can even watch. Like, there's literally no way you could watch everything if you sign up. It's an insane amount of content. So I know like $30 a month sounds like a lot off the top, but when you break it down, I mean, we have 6 events a month roughly on average. So that's $5 an event. If they were pay-per-views, $5 per event, that's nothing, right?
Exactly, man. So that's a pretty good deal, guys. So jump on that shit. There's a couple more things that I just want to touch on briefly, and I want to give you guys the floor as well. But I want to give a shout out to Dave Pella. I know that he got onto Twitter and he listened to us, and he said he's going to add it to his weekly podcast downloads. So shout out to him. Thanks for the feedback. We want feedback. We want a fuckload of feedback because we're only starting out, and we're going the way up. So we're going to introduce new people and hopefully get people from around the world as well. So just a quick shout out to him. And I'll also give a quick shout out to our Monty Sneaks, who's our artist over there at Ramen Chokehold, who always watches everything we do and all that sort of thing. So thanks to you guys for your fucking support. Absolutely love you too. So jump on board, guys. Jeff, who you got?
Yeah, I actually want to shout out 2 things. Because number one, TKO 42, the Canadian promotion, you probably know him from like Robin Black hyping him up. TJ Laramie is defending his title against Joao, whoever the fuck, Nogueira. Doesn't matter who he is. TJ Laramie's fighting, and anytime he fights, you want to check him out. And then co-main Charles Jourdain, who he just beat, is also fighting. So check that card out. It's pretty good. They got another title fight on their flyweight title fight, so that's a great card. But the main one I want to shout out is ACB 82 this past weekend. Matios Matos versus Nashko Galiev. If you have not seen this fight, do yourself a favor, go on YouTube, check it out, because I immediately number 1 in candidates for fight of the year. Oh, crazy fight. No, knockdowns. I think the first round was like 3 knockdowns. The second, Matos landed a hard right high kick, put Nashko in a heavy arm triangle, battled through it, scrambled out, another war, and then the third round you could even go best round of the year. There was just, I can't even explain it. The swings, the dramatic turns, the knockdowns, the blood, the submission attempts, everything. Check it out if you haven't already.
That's it. Oh, thanks for the shout-outs, boys. That's fantastic. We'll give you a quick little preview about next week. Obviously, I'm moving from Malaysia over to Thailand. I'll be in Bangkok for one, which is possibly – it's nearly going to be the event of the year. It's probably going to be one's event of the year. It might even be MMA's event of the year, where we've got Martin the Situation Nguyen. He's vying for his 3rd weight division world championship when he takes on one of the greats, one of the OGs, one of the fucking, you can throw all of the superlatives you can at this guy. It's Bibiano Fernandez, and he's got the nuts. He's sacked up, and he put his hand up to defend his belt versus Marty. So I'm going over there for that. There's also Shannon Wirachai's on the card, and the debut of one Gary Tonin, which I am looking forward to. He's going to rip some fucker's knee off, that's for damn sure. And the day before on Friday, we've got Hex Fight Series in Australia, which we've done quite a few interviews and quite a few stories on at Ramen Chokehold, which is Kit the Killer Campbell's taking on Matt the Viper Vale in the main event, which, in my opinion, whoever wins that is in the UFC. Mark my fucking words. You write it down, date it, time it. It's Mark, trust me. Whoever wins, that's in. And Hunter, I know you're a big fan of Kit, aren't you?
I have his jersey actually. Yeah, I have his Fila fight kit.
And in the co-main event, we got Jimmy the Brute Crute, who I will be catching up with this week as well. So look out for that. And he's taking on the #1 Southeast Asian light heavyweight in Du Hwan Kim. Pretty sure I got that right. Might have fucked it up. Sorry about that, Du. But so that's going to be an absolute great fight. Also, Darwin Sujaret's on that as well. So boys, big week next week. We'll be back same time, same place, same bat fucking channel. Thanks for joining us again. It was absolute pleasure.
I'm going rogue. One last thing. We need a name for this show. So fans, we spun our wheels and couldn't think of shit because we're not very creative, I guess. But if you got any suggestions for a name for this, throw them our way. We'll pick the best one.
Dumb and dumbest. All right, boys, there it is. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, later.